Welcome to the Black Appalachian Coalition's podcast entitled Blac Re-Membering, where we will bring to you the heavy and the hope across the Ohio River Valley. We want to remember who we are, where we've come from. We want to speak to the oral history of what we've done, what we've achieved. We want to speak to the ills that we have experienced while also finding solutions to those problems, those issues. We want to deal with the narrative that has kept us deeply rooted in despair. Now we want to punch through that narrative and stand up and say, we are remembering our Black past, and we are rooted, and we are here to stay. Welcome to Blac Re-Membering. We hope that you find your place, your space, and your voice in this podcast.
So I am Tanya Whitfield, the narrative organizer for the Blac Re-Membering podcast. And I am here today with the beautiful, amazing, intelligent Olivia Davis. And I'm going to let her introduce herself as well, how she would like to be introduced, because y'all know how I do. That's what I do.
Well, thank you, Tanya, for having me. My name is Olivia Davis. I am a CPA in Kentucky and Ohio. My career background involves being an auditor for a Big Four public accounting firm, then transitioning into higher education to teach, actually, accounting at the University of Kentucky. I am a Lexington native. I am a mom of two kids, and my husband and I have been married for almost 23 years. I was about to say 25, but we met 25 years ago, but married for 23. Yeah.
Well, congratulations for that, because
Thank
that
you.
is a beautiful thing, especially in these days. And it's so funny. So the backstory, me and her, we met at an event. And of course, the event was perfect because it was about woman love, like for real. And yes, even men won, awards at that event. And he was a very cool guy too, cool mustache. Can't think of his name, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think his name is Jim. I actually can't remember his name either. I know what firm he works for. I know
Yeah,
women
the
that work at
whole
that firm. Yeah.
situation. Yes. And I just knew like we would just be cool friends and colleagues. And so when I
And I don't
started
know if you've
doing,
seen, they used our picture in the Best of Tops edition in December.
yes, because one of my friends that I haven't even talked to in a minute, she was like, girl, you look like you had fun. I'm like, I did. And you see
My
this beautiful sister I'm with. So yeah.
Someone that my mom knows sent it to her and says, I saw your daughter.
Like, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
You
So
and
it's
we rock
nice.
with it. Yeah.
Yeah, our
It's
picture
like,
had an impact on many people.
yes, because it's a beautiful thing, and that's another reason why I love doing these podcasts, because it's about bringing awareness in the community. Because I also have an event coming up this Friday at the Central Public Library in the Ferris Theater in Lexington, Kentucky, to talk about Stalking Awareness Month, which is the month of January, and the color is yellow. And so my girl, she is repping some purple. It has blended
Yeah,
in well with her jacket. Blended in
which is
very well.
yeah, look. I couldn't wear yellow, even though my heart I wanted to, but that's just not my color.
But honey
Well, I
boo, I
don't
see
okay.
some yellow in the back. I see it. You got some yellow for me. You hooked me up. So I definitely appreciate her supporting this as well. So the first question is, tell us a little bit about yourself and your community.
Well, so as I said, I am a Lexington native, and actually have lived here, always called Lexington home in terms of my permanent address, but have traveled a lot. As a young person, I felt like very connected to the city, and then once I started a career that involved a lot of travel, felt a little less connected, and made a really intentional decision, actually. Almost 8 years ago, to get connected to the city like I felt like I was when I was in high school. And so that involved kind of getting involved, like trying to join boards, be at events, like do things like that in the community. And what started out as like kind of thinking about doing it really, I mean, intentionally, but like at a small scale turned into something really huge because, the firm that I worked for 6 months after I made this decision to be more involved where I live, they decided to close our office and said, you have to move or, do something else. And I was like, well, I'm putting my foot down. I really want to be part of this community, not just because it's where I've always lived, but it's a place that I have always chosen. And I think that that's a little bit different is that I'm from here, but I've made important part of my life to stay. And so I said, well, I'm certainly not going to go now. So, flash forward, that turned into accidentally getting a teaching job at the university where I, was born and went to school and all of that, but really gave me a platform to be more involved in the community. So for me, I try and spend my time, like I know we all have issues kind of that touch and move our heart. And for me, education certainly is one of those. And I'll say children, but with an asterisk, like I don't necessarily, I'm not the kind, warm, loving, type that is wants to take care of babies. But I do want to give as much opportunity to every child so that they can choose and choose their own path and chart a successful future. So for me, that involves investing a lot of time in initiatives that support children and education. And you're laughing at me, but I'm not nice, so that's a
I just can't see that in you, but I love how you said that. And that's why I'm
yeah,
laughing so hard. Cause I
yeah.
love cause as a woman, that's like illegal for a woman to say that. And like you're
Oh
like,
yeah,
no, I'm okay with that being
I'm
illegal,
okay with
but I'm
that.
still gonna say that. So it's all good. So I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, well, here's something else that you will love is that when people's children don't act right, they threaten them saying they're going to have to come stay with me, like I'm a like wicked witch of some kind. But I mean,
And it's funny because my aunt, which, I've grew up with her my whole life, she sounds like Minnie Mouse. I promise she does. But like she just has this look when she gets mad and it will scare anybody. Anybody. Like, you know how some people just have that look? And she's like sweet as pie, just like you. Like you're like I couldn't see people thinking you're mean or that you even say that you're mean. Cause I'm just like, but I
yeah,
think
yeah.
you're just that type. I can do it when I need to. And as sweet as you can be, that's how bam you can be. I don't like to say mean. I just like to say bam because you
Oh
you
yeah.
you
Well,
say
so I
what it
think
is and
yeah, I
all
think
that.
mean is like attaches an intention to it that's not, the same matter of fact way that I feel.
I get that. I definitely get that because you just seem so sweet. Your whole vibe and your whole, even your hair, like the whole situation,
Well, yeah, I do still have my kind of wild curly hair right now instead of
which
my
is so
coiffed
beautiful.
straight hair.
So I know you kind of talked about your community and like as you were growing up. So I'm pretty sure it's a little different now than when it was when you were younger. So usually when I ask this question, I kind of percolate and explain a little bit more because you don't always have to go deep back into, when you were first born and all that type of stuff, but just kind of what you feel led to share in that question.
About things that have changed in my community.
Yes.
Or-
So this is kind of like actually two-part question because it's like,
Okay.
how was your community like when you were growing up, and then how has it changed since? Because I'm pretty sure there's been some differences for when you were younger, growing up, versus how you see the things now.
Yeah, sure. And I think that some of the things that I perceive as the community being like when I was younger are just that my perceptions and not necessarily what I would perceive now. And so to some extent, I say the changes are the lens with which I view them. There's some things that are actually, I think if I were to like take a step back and think about it, they're pretty similar, which is Lexington continues to struggle with how exactly to make downtown what we all believe it can be, is that continues to be something that for as long as I can remember, as there have been projects to try and make that happen. And while I think there have been, I mean, partially because of population growth. I think there have been tremendous efforts in that. I think that we're still on the continued path there. So in one of the organizations that I volunteer with, one of the things that I was tasked with doing was essentially taking the results of every kind of survey on the table, like anything that was done for like a decade, and distilling that down into basically a bulleted list of what do people in Lexington care about. And the what do people in Lexington care about, there wasn't anything that was like a surprise necessarily, but it was a very clear, like specific themes that emerged is that people in Lexington care about green spaces. People in Lexington care about affordable housing. People in Lexington care about transportation. People in Lexington care about cultural access, arts, humanities, all of those things. And then people care about youth and opportunities for youth. And for me, I feel like that actually probably has always been true. But as a younger person, I perceived the care about youth because of the number of programs I was able to participate in, but I didn't necessarily know that anybody cared about transportation, right? Like it's not something, but I'm sure it was true. I mean, at least it's been true for the last 10 years. So anyway, so I think that that's something that is really interesting. And while I would say I think in my heart understood that Lexington had lots of parks and opportunities to be outside compared to other places, that how actually important it is and how much it is in kind of the fabric of every development that happens. Now that's something that was like very different from my perception because I knew the park that I could walk to from my house. And I knew that there, is a big park down by where I used to live, but to me, it didn't seem like that was part of the identity of the community. But I really understand that to be part of the identity of the community now. But most of those parks were around when I was little. I just, my world was smaller.
I get that. So, what environmental things have you noticed? And this is as far as like air quality, if you've ever been like around factories, any kind of, thing like that. Like, because I live behind the Jif plant.
The Jif plant, yeah.
Yeah, so I smell nothing but peanut butter.
Yeah, so yeah, I went to school by the Jif plant. So it's a big part of my daily life back in middle school too. And I think if you're somebody who knows the smell, you can smell it anywhere in the city. You know what I'm saying? You can be out at Brannon Crossing and still smell that it's time to roast the peanuts. But all that being said, in terms of factories that we have in town, we don't really have that many. And that's a thing that I didn't really understand how different Lexington was that way and not having a huge manufacturing presence. Like as my work as an auditor, a lot of what I did was go to facilities where any number of things were manufactured. Automotive was a big thing that big industry that I worked in. And so as I go to these towns that have populations of 25, 50,000 people that have like two factories that are, I mean, huge, take up all this, and it commands so much of what is that town and their experience. I also, I feel like in Lexington, because we have, Jif, and we have some other stuff, just not to the same level. But when I go to like other cities or like New Jersey area, I'm like not trying to say anything about anybody's anything, but it's just very different. So a lot of times when I travel to large cities, and I'll bring up Los Angeles now, not because of the fires, but because even on the best days there, it's a place where I have a little difficulty breathing. And so, people joke that you have allergies if you live in Kentucky, but you may not have them elsewhere, right? Kind of thing. Well, and for me, it's true. I have allergies when I live here, but when I have been into, it's actually the place near Los Angeles is called City of Industry. It is just tons and tons of factories. So a lot of air quality issues there, in addition to, just the car impact of that metro area, is that I actually had the difficulty breathing kind of for the first time, despite, growing up with allergies here. Anyway, So things that I notice around here, what I think that I have an appreciation for now that I'm older is the impact of kind of what we throw away and what goes into our storm drains, in
Mm-hmm.
particular from like cars. So I didn't really think about the impact of this when I was younger, but you name the car and it's leaking something. Well, that goes somewhere, right? And so it's leaking antifreeze, it's leaking oil, it's leaking whatever, and that kind of getting into water supply and the impact here. And so even though we may not have some of the big issues related to large scale industrial manufacturing, we still have many, many small things that I think can add up to be a lot. And, I never, and maybe this is something that, again, maybe my perception is what's different, but the kind of air quality warnings that happened here, even now, that not really used to, that is something kind of, yeah, anyway, kind of interesting. But I guess I also just think that like thinking about the tree canopy and how
Mm-hmm.
that makes a big difference. And so this past summer, I got to spend time in London and
Like
yeah,
Kentucky or London,
no,
London.
like London, England. I was
Oh,
there for
okay.
like I
I
was there for
always
like a
have to
month.
make sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. And that's valid, right? Because, in Kentucky we got London, Paris, Versailles. So for your
That's
listening audience, you might call it Versailles, but not around these parts. You're gonna call it Versailles. But yes, London, England. And the thing that I learned while I was there, and so it's something that they deal with congestion from cars, obviously, and so there's pollution from that. But what they also have is this incredible tree canopy that has it. I don't know if it's portions of the kind of metro area, but they're classified as an urban forest because of the amount of green that is involved. And so it's just like huge city, tons and tons of people, lots of, stuff going on, but the trees there, it was just so different. And I mean, I thought that was neat. It also rains a lot there, so it was rough on my hair. More than
I
anything.
could have, as soon as you said it rains a lot, my hair was even feeling some type
Yes.
of,
I uh
yeah.
I was like, oh, it's cooler there than it is in Kentucky, which means I won't have to deal with humidity. Wrong. It actually is 100% humidity. Still, despite being cooler.
And of course, and since you've been there, I have to ask this question. Like, the guys with the big hats and all that,
Yes.
did you like actually walk past them, see
I did, but
them,
I did not go up and like
try to mess with
be like,
them and be like,
I'm
ooh,
not touching you. No, I didn't do any of
yes,
that.
yeah,
But
because
I
I
did
think
see them.
they get that enough. I'm pretty sure they did not miss it if you didn't do anything.
Yeah,
Like I
no, I
think they were
was
like, thank you.
I was polite. I was polite.
And did you get to
There's
get on one of those little bussy things? I forgot what they're called, but the
Oh, on a
little,
double decker, yeah,
yes.
absolutely. Like, yeah, I got to do it on like my regular, like my the regular bus that I would ride to, like where I was. So I was there leading students for education abroad, and so I like took a bus to get to my, education center, and so it's just like my regular commute was,
Yeah, like double decker. Hey.
yeah.
So the last official question I ask is what are your hopes? And when I hear the word, what are your hopes? Like that can mean so many different things. So just like your hopes for like your community, for now, for the future.
Yeah, well,
Um,
so I can narrow this down pretty to one precise thing because it is what is my main focus for the next I hope it's closer to the three, but the 3 to 5 years is I'm president of the board at the Lexington Children's Museum, and I am what is the first generation of kids to experience that museum when it opened. And the impact that it had on my life, my curiosity, and just kind of
mm,
my feeling that I had something really great where I live. We didn't have to go out of the city to go to it. I am putting a lot of my effort behind doing that for the next generation, right? And generations to come. And so I do think that having a really great children's museum is something that is important to a community. And I don't mean that it's specifically a children's museum, but having things that children and families can experience that help kind of exploit's not the right word, but lean in, leverage that natural innate curiosity of a child to want to learn through play is really, really important. And I mean, for me, the thing that I've always felt is so great about the Children's Museum we have is that it has been the children's museum that most can afford. And that is not true about many others. And so I hope that we can look, well, and I mean, we've expanded accessibility by getting support for like the Museums for All initiative that allows for $2 admission for anybody who receives government assistance of any kind. So even our, low ticket price compared to other attractions can be made even lower. And us working towards when I'm not saying if, when we get a new one in this community, that we're able to continue that, because being able to have opportunities like that with curated programming, as well as that free kind of play learning expression that comes with the way you experience an exhibit, and you experience it one way when you're 4, and you experience it a different way when you're 8, and the impact that can have long term. I mean, that's really, really important to me. So my biggest hope, dream, whatever, for my community is that everybody joins me on that and believes that that is possible, and that we can get a new museum in for now, and my children's children, and so on and so forth.
You are so amazing. And like, I think I remember you saying something about the Children's Museum because I do love the Children's Museum. Me and my princesses have been there many, 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 many times. And so I love that. I love that as you being a leader with that because I truly believe that leaders set the tone for anything. And so for you to genuinely have that perspective, you are able to help others because even if they don't have that quote unquote perspective, they're like, well, that is my boss. You know what I'm saying? And of course they don't say it like that, but they kind of say it like that. Like, well, I gotta percolate for a little bit. I
Let's get
gotta,
on board.
and then eventually it just happens. Eventually it just happens because I believe it's not how you start to do it, because eventually it's just you. Because like I could get help getting a job, but what keeps me at that job is my work, is what I do, how I show up. So this has just been amazing, which I already knew that because you are the bomb.com, and that's just what it is.
Wait, can I tell you at the
Mhm.
Children's Museum so that you will go back and visit again if you haven't been there in the last year? And if you haven't been in the last 2 years, I got more to share with you. But there's a new exhibit open about like mail and the postal service, which is very cool. And then shortly there will be a new revised version of like a doctor's office and a medical facility that's going to be opening really soon. And then, yeah, last year, the STEM gallery with the paper plane launcher and some other kind of engineering stuff was open. So the paper plane launcher is pretty great. And there's a picture circulating, I think, on Instagram of me at the time when not when I got the plane to go through the hoop, okay, but just when somebody else did, and the level of excitement and celebration that I felt for this woman who was able to get this. You can get the plane, it shoots, it changes the light. I was like, man, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. So anyway, make sure you go and check that stuff out too, because even though my laser focused on getting a new one happening, the current one, we still are investing so much time and energy and making sure we're still fulfilling that need for the community to have a safe, clean, fun environment for kids to learn with their families.
And I love that. And I'm glad you just went in to say that. And that's why I say it like this is, the like analytical side. And I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I always have to ask a couple of questions because I want to get all the business part out. But as I told you, like wanting to know how you get to where you're at. I feel like why that's important, not just because you're a beautiful woman, but you are a beautiful woman of color and you represent us. And to see a woman of your caliber, doing all the things that you're doing, really being such a force in our community to let people know that, we all matter. Because I do believe representation is important. So just like learning, how do you get to where you're at? Like I told you earlier, you didn't wake up like this. So,
Right. Yeah. Well, so I guess I'd say, like, usually when people ask me kind of what's your philosophy or whatever, I steal from, I can't remember if it's Tina Fey's book or Amy Poehler's book. I don't remember, but they, get it from kind of what is the world of improv. And in improv, you always say yes and. So you always agree to whatever your partner says and add to it. And I feel like that's how I live my life, is that I'll agree to whatever, but and not but, and I'm going to bring something to it. So for me, a lot of it is around that I feel like I have had lots of space to be curious and explore. And that has given me the opportunity to figure out where and how I can serve best. So sometimes it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain that without explaining that I also just believe that in my time on earth is that the most good that I can create or contribute to is the goal. And so figuring out how I can, the highest and best use of my time to do that. And so for me, it's like, it starts out, I was good at math. And while you're good at math, you do this thing and you do that thing and you whatever. And it's like, I never felt like I had a defined path or goal. I just wanted to work hard and keep learning. And that is really all I've ever done. And, so I joke like about accidentally getting a job to teach, but I think that I accidentally got, a job to be in public accounting. I accidentally became a CPA. And I don't mean that I didn't work hard. It was just none of it was a specific goal. It was all an opportunity. And I was like, well, I like opportunity. I'm going to take advantage of this one and see where that leads. And so I think most of my focus, or most of what has kept me focused on kind of moving forward and doing the next thing is just, I love having the chance to work hard and to learn more, and that's it.
and I don't know why this is actually the first time I've asked this question, but I just feel like I need to ask it. Okay, so because we are two amazing women, and when I'm not being cocky by saying that, it's just facts.
It's just true.
It's just what it is. Because we all struggle. Let's just put that out there. But I know for young women, especially women of color, it's not that it's harder for us, but it's like, okay, it's always going to be hard in a sense for women in general, just because this is a male dominated world. It will probably always be that way, but we just percolate and we just do the things that we need to do, and we're not going to stop trying to be ourselves because of that fact, because that's just a fact. But if there are women out there that hear this, that are like, but she, like, how did she do this? Like, I know she said she's working hard, she's done this, she's done that, but how do I have such, because everybody understands things differently and everybody has their own perspectives, and that's why I love what you said earlier, is my view changed because when you said that, like, it did something to my spirit. And I'm not trying to be religious right now, but it really did. I was just like, I had to change my view, right? Because I say this all the time. Like, if I wake up in the morning and I say to myself that I am dumb, I'm ugly, I'm never going to be anything, then that is what I'm going to project. That is how I'm going to walk things out. But if I wake up and say, man, I can reach the sky, I might fall on some clouds, but I'm still up there, you know? And so it's like, how do you have that? And when I answer it, I always say, I was just blessed. I was blessed with the best parents in the world. I had the best daddy that loved me with everything. I know that for a fact. But I also know that my granny raised him accordingly for him to be that way. And that's what we have, right, in our family. So that was a long way to say that. But what would you say about how you have become how you are now?
Well, I do think having some extremely supportive parents is a huge part of that, because they always said and believed that I could do a lot of things. And now at some point there was like I better get it together because I don't want them to be disappointed. But I think hearing that kind of thing, and so maybe my advice is to people who are parents or in the lives of young people is that being able to kind of help people build that belief, because I think I'm a little bit like you, is that I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to be great today. I don't think about the things that I don't mean that I'm doing everything perfect. I just mean that I'm always going to keep trying to be better. But I definitely wake up believing that I can accomplish everything I set out to do. Now, some days there aren't enough hours. It's not me that's the problem. The day's too short. But I do think having being able to just be confident, particularly in the things that you just can do easily. And it did take me a little while to get to that, particularly related to things that are like financial in nature. So I help a lot of organizations deal with it, like reading financial statements, trying to plan, trying to analyze costs, like that sort of thing. And a younger version of me who still had lots and lots and lots of knowledge believed that because there were people who did know more than me, that I somehow couldn't, I wasn't quite enough yet. And I think just acknowledging the places where you are enough and what you have is valuable and helpful. And once I got over that, like understanding that, oh, like this thing that I can do easily is actually enough for 90% of people who need help. And yeah, there's 10%, there's 10% who are doing something way different than I could ever hope to help, but I don't need to be self-conscious about that. So yeah, I mean, I definitely wake up being like, yeah, I'm gonna do a great job today.
You are so awesome. So, with all that being said, I'm just so grateful not only for your friendship and your sisterhood, but for you making time to hang out with me and to hang out with my viewers, because this is what I'm all about. I'm all about being an advocate with anything that I do. I mean, I never really knew those words until people start telling me, because I feel like this is what I do on a regular day. This is like breathing to me. This is like frying chicken to me. Like it's just normal. I wouldn't even know how to not do this. Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's just
See,
like,
because
it's
you
just
did
one of
wake up
those
like that.
things. Yes, because I did wake up like that. Shout out to Beyonce. How you doing, girl? Hey. So with all that, I am going to end